Welcome to Yeukai Business Show, UK's premier business show where we feature business thought leaders, high achievers, and industry experts. Today's episode is brought to you by World Outsourcing Solutions Limited, a company that specializes in helping executive business owners with virtual assistant services and business growth systems. Here's your host, Yeukai Ketchadori.
Awesome. Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. We are so excited for you because what you're about to discover is going to truly change everything. In fact, we're going to be talking about the frequently asked questions around this area. You know, sometimes you just need a straightforward answer to a question that you may have. And today, we just have the right expert to share with you what works today. And this is based not only from just theory, it's good to have theory, but from experience that spans over a very long period of time, and the proof in the customers and the testimonials that are on the website that this stuff we're going to be talking about actually works. Now, before I introduce our guest here today, I want to remind you to go into the community and get ready to ask any questions that you may have around this topic, because, you know, these times we have on the podcast, we can only cover so much, but the rest of the conversation, the real conversation or in-depth conversation happens in the community. So you want to go into the community and ask those questions. There will be a link at the bottom of this page for you to ask those questions. Now, back to our guest. Incredible. Thanks again for joining us here. Truly appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to talk to us and be generous with your knowledge. Now, for those who are yet to discover you or who haven't met you or discovered some of the things that you do, could you tell us a little bit about yourself in terms of your background, your education, and your experience in this area? And while you're at it, let people know whether you have been an overnight success, which I know there isn't, and if you haven't, what has worked for you over the years for you to become the expert that you are today?
Hi, Yeukai. Thanks for having me, first of all. I'm delighted to be here. And those are all great questions. I'll start by telling a little bit about myself. I am a small business coach, also / advisor. And I put that in because I'm more than just coaching. I also, having so much background knowledge, I do like to advise my clients as well, in addition to guiding them to their goals and getting them to achieve their goals. So, the part of my background actually is that when I was about 24 years old, I started a business with my sister at the time, and we started a retail operation in the fashion industry. And we're talking a long time ago at this point, and over 20 years ago. And we had it was a bit of a struggle to start off, actually. Even though she had studied international business, I had studied marketing. We had quite a bit of knowledge behind us. Both of our parents were actually in retail for a long time too, also in fashion and footwear, actually, and we were just in fashion apparel. But when we were starting out, it was a different time. Things were a little bit more, there wasn't as much social media. There was no activity with web development. It was a very slow start to all of that. And the world at that time was a little bit more challenging, start of a potential war in Iraq. So we definitely found a lot of obstacles along the way and a lot of blind spots that we would never have been aware of other than people telling us or having a lot of experience. So you would ask the question if we were an overnight success. I would say absolutely not. No, in fact, it took us quite a bit of time to get to the point that we wanted to be at. And we wanted to grow really fast. Our goal was to open multiple locations. And we weren't able to do that until we knew to be firm on where we were and to be able to see our results and really figure out what our patterns were and also what our formula was going to be in order to open more retail operations. So it took us a little bit of time, but when we opened our next new retail store about 5 years later, that I would say was kind of an overnight success because we knew what we were doing. It took us some time, but we figured it out. And like I said, we had a bit of a game plan and we had that pattern in place. So we knew a little bit more of that formula and how to apply it. And then when we opened up another store, I think it was 5 years after that, we also, I don't want to say overnight success, but definitely successful very, very quickly. And I would attribute that to the same reasons. We knew what was working. We knew what wasn't working. We knew we had the same sort of demographics that we were following. So we really had an idea of what our customer was, what they wanted, and what they were looking for going forward. So I know overall, from the beginning, from the get-go, right out of the door, no success in that way. A lot of struggles from the beginning, but worth it because it took us to where we wanted to be. And now here I am, I'm applying all that knowledge, 20 plus years of knowledge, to becoming a small business coach and advisor for those who are in need. And I really want to help, and I'm very passionate about helping people grow their business and reaching their goals and achieving their goals.
Awesome. Thank you. Absolutely appreciate that. Now, in my journey, I've got to be honest with you. I've had to overcome a lot of roadblocks, from right at the beginning of my business journey. Even up to now, I consistently have to overcome these roadblocks. I want to talk to you about roadblocks. What roadblocks did you face earlier on, and how did you overcome them?
We had a lot of roadblocks, a lot along the way. There were a lot of challenges. I think a lot of people didn't perceive us as mature because we were quite young and thought maybe, this was not going to be long lasting. And both of us felt that we had to make it work and really sort of fight for what we wanted and prove to people that we were mature individuals who really wanted to expand the business and grow the business. And also at the time, and even now, it feels very different having this business coaching service. I feel like people are very receptive to women. People are very receptive to talk to women and take them more seriously. But back then, it felt a little bit less likely. That was one of our big obstacles. And I also would probably address the fact that we found that we didn't know how to play the game as well, back then. Now, with so much experience, I know how to play the game. I know how to handle people and manage people and tolerate some people's behaviors better than I would have at one point. So I think from when it comes to roadblocks from an earlier stage in the game of having so many years of business experience, definitely that was one of them was people and dealing with people too. Also technology, the advancement of technology was just ongoing and still ongoing. And you have to be almost like an early adopter for so many things in order to grow until you start to realize it's more than just adopting it early, and you can work with within your means, but you have to learn how to do it. So almost like social media, like we were on Facebook and it was kind of picking up a little bit of speed. And then you start to see Facebook really getting strong and big. And then when Instagram started to become just a teensy bit popular, we paid attention. We're like, this is a good time to start on the ground floor. And over time, those roadblocks started to become more of like, the way of doing things. It was just those, you recognize that, these roadblocks are how to manage the future, really. And they're a good thing. I actually appreciate roadblocks because they take us to the next steps and they guide us to get to the next point. And then we know how to navigate that next step. So I'm hoping that answers your question. I feel like we definitely had our obstacles and our roadblocks to overcome. And to this day, I feel very proud to have overcome so many to get to this point where I can help and advise people in their business as well.
Yes. Yes. And thank you for becoming that example that, these roadblocks can be overcome because you did it. And I know Bill listening in here can attest to that they too will be able to overcome because it has been done before. Now, what was your first major breakthrough that gave you that, perhaps assurance that you were on the right path?
So I would say my first major breakthrough was probably, I realized at the top of the pandemic that businesses were struggling. A lot of them didn't know how to pivot. And I had like lots of business owners coming to me and talking to me. And I was realizing there was this need and this demand for people to just have bouncing boards, people to talk to. And I'd known a business coach in the past, and but I really realized that people, obviously there's budget involved too, but they need something that's going to be sort of an affordable approach to having some guidance with experience. And it's more than just going to school and studying at school. This was something where I recognize it's an experience thing. And that breakthrough was in that aha moment. Oh, there is a demand for this. People don't know which way to go. So it really sparked my interest in going in the direction of becoming a business coach and advisor, because I really, really realized, one, I had a lot to offer. And two, I felt that people were receptive to that. And three, I felt people really wanted and needed it. And I'm really glad to have made that decision.
That's awesome. That is incredible. How is the world, perhaps, in this area has changed or is different now than when you got started?
How is the world not different? It's so different. It's so unbelievably different now than when I started. I would say the biggest change is the landscape, political landscape, but also what really seems to be having a big effect on that too is social media. And I would say that, along with e-commerce, has become what has been so different. And the world has changed so much as a result of it in so many ways. And I think in a way, there's so many ways that it's been good. It's getting information out there. It's great. It's great that businesses are now on using e-commerce, and people are starting to get used to the idea of that and more acquainted and comfortable with it, and putting a little bit more information out there when it comes to like they're putting their Visa cards or their MasterCards. Like people are starting to put a little bit of faith in that system, which is amazing, because that does open the doors for more e-commerce businesses and more people to start businesses, because a lot of people may not have wanted to do anything else outside of e-com. So there's a lot of potential, which I think is great. I think social media definitely has been game changing in the world, and also for business, just absolutely game changing, platform over platform. It's like every time you turn around, there's a new one where this is going to be the next big thing. This is going to be the next big thing, but it's opened doors for people too. And it's also opened doors to global markets and new customer bases. So it's been, and also an entirely new system of making money. And I'm talking about the influencing community, where influencers are now, this is like a career now, which is so interesting. And that's evolved over the past like less than 10 years. So a lot has changed in this world for sure, for the good and for the bad.
Indeed. Things don't stay the same, do they? They keep changing. And I've discovered that the people who are quick to adapt to the situation are the ones that will stay in the business for a very, very long time. And the ones that wants to stay with the old system tends to be out of business in no time. I think of the blockbusters, the DVDs and the video, back in the time, they all went out of business. We don't know exactly the ins and out of that, but they were not very quickly to adopt and become very, flexible in accepting the new system or the new way of doing things. Therefore, if Bill, you're listening, you may want to look at how flexible you are when it comes to these things. While at it, I've just thought of something else. I was listening to one of my mentors a few years ago, and he said, in business, you have to be as fluid as water. The water flows, it follows the path of least resistance. It follows. You never find water flowing uphill. It's always downhill. And the concept he was trying to share with me there is, the world is changing. And whatever you're going through, whatever you're trying to build, look for that path of least resistance and go with that. If it means changing something, leaving a certain way, or leaving a certain aspect of your business, adopting a certain aspect of your business, you do that. you're going to, well, in a way, you'll be able to increase your chances of staying in business over a long period of time. I know I've wandered a little bit there, but I just felt it'll be applicable at this point because it still works for me today. I always, in every situation, follow the path of least resistance. Let's talk about how can you get started fast in this area for those who are listening.
Well, I love what your mentor said, actually. I totally believe in that fluidity in your business and being a little bit more malleable. You have to go with the times and see what's happening around you. I also really believe, I'm, as I said, a small business coach. I really believe, and I want my clients to believe, that if you want to have fast growth or if you want to achieve even just your goals, that you need to be receptive to what's happening around you and in the world, if there's potential opportunities. And I also believe in, I talk about this a lot, foresight. And I think business owners being, their money's on the line, their times, there's so much on the line. It's not just a job where you clock, you can clock in, clock out. And if you get, you get let go, you go and you find another job. This is like, you're so committed. You've put so much into your business that you just want to make sure that you take good care of it. And as a result of that, I think business owners start to develop something like a business foresight, where they read into things a little bit more and almost not have their crystal ball, but they're looking at things to say, okay, where can I move? How can I say pivot? How could I change this a little or alter it based off of technology, their advancements, or AI, social media, e-commerce? Like, what around you can make your business better and more successful as quickly as you can? But I 100%, the path of least resistance, it's always best. To me, path of least resistance is a lot like less is more. You don't work so much more than you need to so that you can get to where you need to be, but look for all those signs along the way and that foresight to lead you there so that you could have the most success the fastest way possible. I think that would probably be my best thoughts on that.
I guess a lot of people, including me, of course, wants to know how long does it take to see real results, tangible results in this area, and perhaps how much commitment it takes, maybe on a daily or weekly basis, to begin to see results that we want. So perhaps in your experience and in helping a lot of people, how long does it take really to see sizable results, something that we'll be proud of?
Result would probably be like a sizable result would probably end up being maybe like enjoying the fruits of your labor. And if that's the case, then everything takes time and everybody goes at a different pace. And I would say it takes nurturing. It definitely takes nurturing. If I were to say like on a weekly basis in terms of time and commitment, there's a lot of commitments that need to be made and definitely a lot of time. And if it was easy, wouldn't everybody else just be doing it? If it was that easy, wouldn't everybody be on board doing it? And then the space would be too crowded that you wouldn't even have an opportunity unless you really hustled. So I think with every business, really, you need a little more of that hustle. And in the case of mine, I definitely feel like there needs to definitely be commitment and time invested, weekly, daily, a little bit, at least every day, just from one capacity to another. Like, it doesn't matter in any way, something always has to give so you can apply it to the business, so you can put some energy towards it in one way or another. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like work, but it's happening behind you, and it's happening while your day is going on. So, but it definitely a lot of nurturing needs to happen.
I couldn't resist asking this question I'm about to ask, because you've explained things so clearly, these steps, and how, and even touched on how long it takes, and it's very clear. But you and I know that not everybody is going to be doing what you just shared here. And in your experience, what stops most people from really doing what you've just talked about here? And how they can avoid those roadblocks, perhaps, so to speak, or those things that will still their goal from them. Would you help us explore this for a moment?
Sure, you're right. People will not do what I just said, and people will not really invest time and nurture their business. And that will be, you will see at the end of a year or 2 years who's really working at it and who's not. And when I get a client, and I can tell who's going to be successful just based off of, are they very serious? Are they setting time aside? Do they realize that they're paying me, and that if they're committing to this, that they need to actually finish those actionable items and be proud of the work that they put in, and continue to nurture their business. So it's difficult to really motivate people sometimes. And but I think most people, if they really, really want it, and they really see and they really set their goals and they value their time. I think that's another thing as well. I think there's part of the problem these days is I think a lot of people are like, yes, okay, fine, I'll do it. But they don't really recognize their time as money. And I think we need to do a little bit more of that to manage our time better, because you manage your time better when you really see, oh, it would make more sense for me to put my energy towards this rather than this, because I know I will be able to get more out of something else that I can put my time towards, because we only have so many hours in a day. So I think the people who would do that the most, and come to terms with the fact that your time is more valuable than you think it is, and that you're willing to do the work and potentially be accountable for it, then I think those will be the most successful people, and they will thrive in their business, really.
Awesome. That's really great. Given what you know about this, where are the big opportunities coming up, for anybody who's looking at and maybe thinking, is there an opportunity coming up? Would you explore based on what you know, what's happening in the industry right now?
I think people's approach for education is an opportunity in our industry. And I think collaborating with people and using platforms, going back to post-pandemic now, that we could, reconnect with people and start doing more of those collaborations and maybe more engagements and opportunities, workshops, speaking engagements. I think that would probably be where I think big opportunities might be now, because I do feel like people are willing to do that again. I think not necessarily gone are the days of the webinar, but I do think people are ready to go back to, meeting up again and speaking to people in person and networking. So I think getting back into that, where the big opportunities could be lying.
Who should pay particular attention in this area, because they stand to benefit the most?
Startups and small businesses who have been around, even veteran business owners who have been in business for over 10 years. But 3 to 5 years of business, you've been navigating through a pandemic, and you want to grow and continue to grow and be at a steady pace. And you're right now looking for your blind spots, and you need somebody to sort of point them out to you. I would say those should be the people who would have to pay particular attention right now, because they would definitely stand to benefit the most. And because there's so many things, the world is changing so fast and technology is changing so fast. That's ideally why. And it's time to go with the flow and make sure that you're connected to people, connected your ears to the ground. You hear what's happening around you, and getting a little bit of advice. So I think definitely the small business owner for sure.
I would be taking notes at that, because if I notice that I am going to benefit the most, I would do everything I can to make sure that I'm in line to receive that. Let's switch gears for a moment and talk about the fastest way to succeed, and the best time to get started in this area, so that it becomes very clear and people can schedule, what they need to do right away.
Yeah, timing is definitely important, but I would say now is the best time, as it is for every question. When is the best time? You could think things through and overthink them, but sometimes the best time is just now, and there's not much to think about. And if you're really, really dedicated and you're passionate and you're serious about it, then 100%, I would say now would be the best time.
Absolutely incredible. I'm certainly enjoying this conversation. Can I remind you, Bill, and everybody listening in today, that you can certainly ask any follow-up questions to any of the areas we are touching on here today in the community. I will be in there, the team will be in there, and everybody will be in there to support you. Coming back to you, let's talk about tools. Are there any special tools or training or equipment that will help through the process? We might as well talk about the kind of cost generally that people should expect to improve their skill set and for them to become what we are talking about here and capitalize on the opportunities that are ahead.
These special tools, they're other than you must be a good listener and definitely have experience. It's definitely a must. You need experience, but also there is training for sure for coaches and advisors as well. And no equipment necessary, but definitely training is always good. And it's always good to learn more because you can always apply what you learn. And there's always costs associated, but the cost might be lower in that when it comes to that. But time is also part of cost as well. And people, don't understand, but sometimes the time pursuing a passion is also it could be very costly as well.
Incredible. And what kind of results can people expect if they do things right? And, are these results typical, for anybody who is starting out or, even those who've been around for a while?
Well, it's difficult to say because it would depend on how much effort and time people are putting into their business as well. But if it's done right and people really, anybody who's pursuing this is really actively working on their goals, then the results could be very good. In fact, they could be through the roof good, and it could also happen very quickly. But you have to be prepared for success and for failure. But if there's a lot of lead generation happening and you're working really hard in generating leads, then you might have a really full dance card of people who are looking to work with you. So, and if that's the case, you've definitely done something right and should continue to do something right. But there's more potential for growth that way as well. But knowing people makes a big difference too. Making connections, collaborating with people, all of that makes a big difference as well. And your results will be way higher when you work more towards that too. So, but a typical, I would say, if just doing what I mentioned before, those are typical results. You'll be achieving typical results. But if you go above and beyond and do more than just what everybody else is doing, you're going to get more than what everybody else is getting.
We're certainly coming toward the end of our time here together, but are there any other questions that business owners should be asking, regarding this now, or begin to think about asking so that when they get into the community later on, they will be able to ask those questions?
Yes, great question. I believe that they should be asking themselves the question, is this what they want to do? Are they willing to work with business owners and really get to deep dive the businesses and really be patient and work with people long term? And do they have the ability to do this? And are they going to enjoy it? And I think the only way you can know that really is by doing it, jumping it in and finding out if it's for you. But I think that would be the big question. And the answer to that, I think, is, like I said, definitely test it out. Maybe do some volunteering and work with some people and try and coach them as well and see if it's for you and if you're enjoying it and if it's a good fit for you. So I would think that would be the primary question they should be asking, is the question to themselves.
Excellent. What final thoughts do you have to help motivate business owners to get started right now, or to take this subject we're talking about very, very seriously?
I think my best piece of advice right now is, if you're really motivated, just jump out the door and do it, but put your all into it. Do not just walk in with one foot. Walk in and put your other foot in too. Both feet need to go through the door to make this work. If you're going to pursue your passion in your business, you need to be all in. And when I say all in, I mean, if something, yes, you want to manage your costs and you want to keep your costs low, but don't cheap out on things that will help you to get to the next level. Be very cautious about what you decide to save your money on, because that all these things reflect on you. So I would advise that if you're in, be all in. And that's absolutely the best advice that I can give you if you're starting something and you're really, really passionate about your project and you really want to move forward with it. Be all in. That's my best advice. I hope that it's heard and people respect that. But that definitely, I speak to so many people, and the ones who are not all in, who are half in, are obviously never as successful as the ones who are all in. And it takes them like twice as much longer to get to where they want to be because they're half in.
Awesome. Thank you so much for a great interview and for your generosity in sharing what is working right now with everybody here. And I know there will be people wanting to connect with you or even carry on the discussion with you and find out more, perhaps want to work with you. Could you tell us a little about your website and how they can connect with you today?
Oh, thank you for having me, Yeukai. I'm so happy that I could have been able to do this with you. And yes, you could find me and reach out to me directly on my website at coachmybusiness.ca. .ca is because for Canada. So coachmybusiness.ca. You can also find me on Instagram and on TikTok, also at coachmybusiness.ca. So I'm pretty easy to find. Feel free to reach out if you wanted to speak or connect or just be in the same community. And I'm happy to connect with anybody who reaches out. So you can also find me on LinkedIn at Ofra Nissani, Ofra, last name Nissani.
Excellent. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. You've just received a masterclass on this subject. And if you were to take one of those things applied today that you've discovered, you could see a tremendous change in what you're trying to do. As you know, success breeds success. And what I've discovered in my personal life is when I succeed in the very first step, my confidence goes up. And I have got this courage and energy to implement the next step and the next step and the next step. And truly, over a period of time, I change, or I've moved from point A to point B, and I've changed my business. I've even changed my life. So I want to encourage you to go and implement what you've discovered today. And if you've got any questions, just go straight into the community to ask those questions. And I want to come back to you here for a moment. And I know that you will be participating in the group. Would you tell everybody how you're going to be helping the listener, those that may have any questions that are in the community moving forward? And when you have done that, we'll just conclude it there. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, go implement this stuff. Go implement this stuff. I can't emphasize that enough. Go implement it. And until next time, live well, live with passion. Know that the best is truly yet to come.
Thank you for listening to Yeukai Business Show. We will be back to bring you more episodes with success stories and advice straight from the experts. Want more? Check out www.yeukaibusinessshow.com. Get your free trial of our virtual assistant service today. Just visit www.worldoutsourcingsolutions.com. Quote WOS18 or send us an email at support@worldoutsourcingsolutions.com.